Hi, and welcome to my Angelman Syndrome resource page. I chose this as part of my multimedia project, and I did this topic because I have a cousin who was born with Angelman Syndrome, and he is now 11 years old, but before then, I knew nothing about this syndrome, and after doing a lot of research, I found how rare it is and that not a lot of people know about this, so I chose this topic to help educate more people about this Angelman Syndrome. What is Angelman syndrome? Angelman syndrome is a congenital disorder that causes a mental disability. It is actually the absence or the abnormality of the UBE3A gene, which is located in the 15th chromosome. Here is a little diagram of that. In this red area right here is where that absence or abnormality would occur. And this is passed down from the mother, they have found, but they aren't entirely sure about what causes this, although they are still doing ongoing research. As of right now, the Angelman Syndrome Foundation has invested the most money of $9 million to help find more treatments and ultimately a cure for AS. Angelman's is so rare, it only occurs in 1 in 15,000 births. Here is a fact sheet about Angelman syndrome. It was first found in 1965 by Dr. Harry Angelman, which is where the name comes from, but also because of the traits of people with Angelman's are happy and bubbly and smiley, they are often associated with being angels. The first signs of Angelman's often are shown between 6 and 12 months when the children start missing milestones, whether it's picking up their head, crawling, starting to talk, things like that. Here are the characteristics, or some of the characteristics of Angelman's. It's very important to remember that the spectrum for Angelman syndrome is broad, and not all children will have all of these characteristics, and some may have more, and some may have less, and some may be more severe in others than they are. So the first is developmental delays, which is just like missing milestones, like we said. Microcephaly, which is an abnormally small head. Trouble walking, balance disorders, communication difficulties. Most people with AS have no communication or very little communication. Jerky movements. They have a happy, smiley, bubbly personality, like we said. They're very hyper. They have trouble feeding a lot of times. It can start as infants because they have trouble sucking, which follows into having trouble swallowing as they get older. Trouble sleeping. 20 to 80% of people with Angelman's have trouble sleeping, whether that's trouble falling asleep, needing less sleep than the typical person, or sleepwalking. Sensitivity to light, which is due to the lack of pigment that they can have in their eyes. Strabismus, which is cross-eyed or not being able to look at one object with both eyes. And involuntary eye movements. Here are some of the medical complications. These also don't apply to everyone who has Angelman syndrome and just vary from case to case. Seizures, although not all have them, it is the most common complication along with Angelman's. Sleeping disorder, like we said, many people have trouble sleeping or have a very abnormal sleeping pattern. They might sleep a lot during the day and be up all night, which can be hard on parents with children with Angelman's. Scoliosis, a lot of people with Angelman's can develop a curve in their spine, otherwise known as scoliosis. Obesity, in the later years of Angelman syndrome, it's very common for them to be obese because they have a large appetite. And ataxia, and this is very common for people with Angelman's, and it's very hard for them to make smooth motor movements, which can cause trouble walking, riding, things like that. This is an amazing video about how each person with Angelman syndrome varies. Their symptoms may vary. I'm going to play a little short clip of it.
Just as every human being is unique, so too is every person born with Angelman syndrome. It was once believed that to have Angelman syndrome, you had to have blue eyes and blonde hair. But you might find that some also have dark hair, brown eyes, and the skin can come in olive. Jada is an Aquarius and curious. Billy was born in the year of the rooster and has a keen sense of pride. Mendy is Jewish.
So this is an amazing video, and I really recommend anyone watching it. It just shows how these people vary, as we all do. And here I put in some websites, resources that I found for parents or anyone who knows someone about Angelman's or just wants to know more about Angelman's. This website, Assert, is actually a UK website, but it's amazing and has amazing information. You can get involved, and that's donating, fundraising, and things like that, and I found this is a great resource for that. There's also a lot of support on here, as most of the websites, education about the syndrome, and just the new research that has come out. This is a newly diagnosed website. So if you know someone who's just newly diagnosed, this website is great. They have live chats for support, education, and things to know about the syndrome, and you can chat with other parents or people who know others with AS. This is an online magazine that I found, and every day they have new information, and every week they put out a newspaper. This has advice, articles, and updated research. Every week you can find new things on this website. And another thing I liked about this website here is an Amazon shop for special needs along with Angelman syndrome, things that can be great for kids who do have AS. So, education and Angelman syndrome, it's so important, I think, to remember that students with AS or any kind of disability are just like every other student. They want to be involved and engaged. They don't want to feel abnormal, and they want to learn. So the most important thing is giving them the appropriate tools to make this possible so that they can be engaged just like everyone else. This is a great website I found here. And so you can change the syndrome, but for this we did Angelman's, obviously, and you can go to different things you want to teach. So if you want to help them with gross motor skills, I click here, and I'd see for my assessment, it tells you the best way, provide breaks during assessments, the environment, where to put them, maybe to seat them at the front of the classroom, back of the classroom, and then for instruction, just different things to focus on when showing these kids different teaching strategies. And I thought this was awesome resource. You can go to different, for if they have low vision, for memory, personal care, things like that. So this is a great resource for teachers who have kids with AS in their classroom. When it comes to children with Angelman syndrome, being around them and having several students in my classroom currently that have AS, I found one of the most important things is the AAC device, or assistive technology. Since most of the children are nonverbal, this assistive technology can help give them a voice, because just because they cannot speak does not mean they don't have something to say. This can be a verbal chart, an iPad, a book that is made especially for them with commands and requests. This video, I'll show you.
Meet Dan. He is a new 7th grader at WAMS. Dan loves talking to his teachers and friends, but while he has no problem comprehending what they say, he does have trouble clearly articulating words with his own voice. So he uses an iPad as a speech device, or AAC device. So how exactly does the iPad help him communicate? Dan uses an app called Words for Life that allows him to form sentences using pictures and icons on a communication board. Sometimes it takes a while to type out those sentences, which can be frustrating for him, because he has questions to ask, answers to give, and usually a lot of jokes to tell. It is important for Dan's teachers and peers to know that it may take him a little longer to communicate, but he loves to display his knowledge and show his...
So this is just a great example of how the AAC devices work and how it can give these children who are nonverbal a voice and communicate with everyone else. Here's some pictures of different AAC devices. Oftentimes they start here with a personalized chart because it's easier to start with a smaller amount of commands, and then they might transfer it over here to the iPad device, which will speak verbally for them. Another thing that is so important is sensory tools. They, just like any student, I think, benefits from sensory breaks. In order to learn and focus, they need to get all their sensory needs out, which can be from taking a walk or using different sensory skills or sensory toys that you can find online. And here's an amazing video. I won't play the whole thing because it's very long, but it shows what a sensory break might look like. Although this is geared towards autism, it goes right into Angelman syndrome because they have the same needs as these students.
Research shows that if the student's in the right mindset and they get their sensory needs met, they're going to be much better learners.
Hands to your heart space. Take a deep breath in.
The sensory room is probably my most important piece of the day. Students go to the sensory room in order to calm their bodies and get all the emotions out and stabilize themselves so they're ready to learn and they're happy.
When we designed the sensory room, we actually took the entire room apart. We carpeted the floor so that we could absorb some of the sound. We put the shades on the ceiling to change the light. So when they walk in that room, they feel the change.
My class specifically, we utilize the room once a day for a 30-minute break.
First thing that they do is go on the ball and they bounce to a metronome. It's really a way to ground them into the space and give them some sensory input.
So this is a great example of how sensory breaks can benefit children with AS, and I think it really benefits all children in the classroom setting. Here are the references that I used, and I hope that my website gave you guys a little more information and education on Angelman syndrome.